Donald Trump is going to reverse the accomplishments of women. Started already with Roe versus Wade, but it's going to go much further. He appointed 4 people who've been charged of sexual assault by the Me Too movement, basically. He appointed 4 of them to the cabinet. 1 failed, 3 are on their way. So his message is clear. Forget the Me Too bullshit. Forget everything you think you have earned. I'm going to take it away from you because in my eyes, you're no longer women. What you have become is competitive men. And I'm very competitive by nature. I'm going to compete with you. I'm going to vanquish you. That's his message. Women are no longer women, they're men. And as men, they deserve to be vanquished. That's message number 1. Message number 2, white men are superior to all other demographic groups, but they can share values with other groups who are non-white. So it was more about class and more about values than about skin color, but the hierarchy is clear. The values emanate from white men. The values of the white men can be shared by blacks and Hispanics, but they're still the values of the white men. In short, internal colonialism, internalized colonialism, basically. If you read literature in the 19th century, Rudyard Kipling's The Burden, the white man's burden, colonialism was not about subjugating indigenous people and stealing their resources. It was also about that. But the main value system or belief system of colonialism was that they're going to elevate indigenous people to the level of the white man. It was about elevation. It was a missionary movement. Colonialism was a missionary movement. And recent studies have demonstrated that colonialist powers have lost much more money than they've made over colonial possessions. Much more was expended on colonial possessions than ever gained from them. But they believed that they are rendering the Indians much better and rendering the Africans much better. They're making them white. They're bleaching them. And this is the belief of Donald Trump. He's going to co-opt the black population, the Hispanic population. He's going to make them white. Make America white again, So it's internalized colonialism. That's the second message, I think. The third message is something has gone awry with the American experiment. The American experiment was a decentralized, if you wish, crowdsourced, or, like crypto assets, a decentralized blockchain experiment at politics. You had a very weak federal center and very strong states. That's how it started. And it was never a participatory democracy. It was a representative democracy. And through the Electoral College and so on and so forth, the elites maintained control over the process. So the democracy doesn't become a mob rule. All Donald Trump wants to do is go back there. That's all he wants to do. He wants to demolish the federal center, which had metastasized and devoured everything in America. Today, about 36% of the GDP of the United States is consumed by the federal government. About 11% of GDP goes to pay debt accrued by the federal government. About 40% of GDP goes to pay social benefit programs, which were invented by the federal government and are resisted by many states. So something is wrong here. There's been a takeover, a hostile takeover by an entity which was designed initially to be extremely weak and dependent on the states. I don't know if you know, but the Constitution of the United States does not allow for a permanent army. When you need an army as the United States, you need to ask the states to send you soldiers. That's how it was designed. The American government was not allowed to borrow money. Was not initially. After that, Congress gave them very limited, like drips of possibility to borrow money. And even then, it was money borrowed to pay money borrowed. The federal government, until the Civil War, was nothing. Nothing. It consumed about 2% of GDP. It was Lincoln who created the modern federal state. And how did he do it? By becoming a dictator. He was a dictator. Booth was right when he shot him. He was a dictator. Habeas corpus was suspended during Lincoln's tenure, and all free media were closed down. Fact. You don't have to trust me. Go check it out for yourself. So a dictator converted the United States into what it is today. And then a second dictator came along, Roosevelt, who was elected 4 times to the presidency and who imposed on America the New Deal, which was massively opposed by the elites and by the states. So there were 2 authoritarian cycles in American history, and they expanded. These authoritarian figures expanded the federal state because that's what authoritarians do. They want to control a big state machinery. And Donald Trump wants to reverse all this. Donald Trump is as dumb as they come. He is a stupid narcissist. He's self-aggrandized. I agree to all this. But his basic instinct might not be that wrong. It's the wrong man for the job, but the job is right. Unfortunately, it's the wrong man for the right job. And the job is to go back to basics, to go back to the roots. This used to be a confederation, in effect, not a federation. And he just wants to go back there. So he's going to eliminate as much of the government as he can, federal government. He's going to give big power to the states. He's going to limit the power of the Supreme Court, which the Supreme Court has already done with the immunity of the president and so on and so forth. And he's going to basically, let people breathe. The left, progressives, liberals, Democrats, call them what you want, they become tyrannical, ideologically tyrannical. People were punished, penalized if they disagreed. The famous cancel culture and so on. It is a liberation movement. Like all liberation movements, it's bound to end up as an authoritarian, dictatorial movement. But it is a liberation movement, make no mistake about it. And so many things intersect that have not intersected in the War of Independence. As I mentioned, men and women, rural city, gown and town. I mean, so many things intersected. There is a severely intellectually challenged Congresswoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she suggested that a divorce might be needed. That there's a part of the United States that is so opposed to the core values of the United States that it should secede or separate amicably. She's not talking about civil war, but perhaps it's time to call it a day, They've grown apart. They've simply grown apart.
Professors in the UK, American professors in the UK, one in specific, has made that recommendation also. Now, she was talking just after the Trump's win, but it's not just the intellectually challenged that are suggesting it.
Yes. Even this intellectually challenged person has suggested it in 2001. I wrote an article in 2001, immediately after the 9/11 attacks. And I said that I think it's time for the United States to separate amicably. Otherwise, it will end up in civil war. So that was written in 2001, published in 2001, multiple places.
Consolidation is the way you grow power. By devolving, you would be limiting or reducing power. So I can't see any possibility of it happening in any meaningful way.
No. Donald Trump is not after power. That's a common mistake, by the way. No criticism implied, because you're not a psychologist, so I cannot, But any psychologist would tell you, psychopaths are after power. Narcissists couldn't care less. They're not after power. They're after adulation and attention. Attention. Could be negative attention, but attention. They're after attention. They don't care about power at all. Narcissists don't even care about money. They don't care about sex. Anything that can yield or lead to narcissistic supply, anything that can engender and generate attention is, of course, welcome and pursued. But the main thing is attention. If what would bring him attention is the devolution of the United States, he would do that. If he would garner a lot of attention as the great reformer, the person who took the United States back to its authentic roots, and that would be his claim to fame and glory, he would do that in a heartbeat.
It's almost more chilling, Sam. It's almost more chilling, this addiction to attention, because
Yes.
you are capable of almost
Anything.
anything.
Anything. Yes.
And it could go anywhere. At least with the psychopath, there may be some kind of rationality baked in.
Persistence, predictability, and consistency with the psychopath. True. With the narcissist, there's none. That's why Donald Trump changes his positions every year, basically. TikTok was very bad last year. TikTok is very good this year. Electric vehicles were horrible last year, meaningless. And this year, they're all the rage. He changes his positions like last year, 4 years ago, he negotiated a trade agreement with Mexico and Canada. Now he's threatening to undo it. There's no consistency. There's no predictability. There's no goal orientation. Narcissists are not goal oriented. Psychopaths are. So, had he been a psychopath, I would have told you definitely. He's going to actually demolish the states and concentrate all the power in his hands the way Hitler did in Germany when he took away the power of the states in Germany. Yes, but he's not. He's a clown. He wants attention. That's all. He's a performer. He's an entertainer. Whatever grabs him attention, he will do. Dismantling NATO, attacking Russia. Whatever gets it done, whatever Abrahamic Accords, wonderful. It's whatever guarantees his place in history in his own mind as it translates into headlines. So we call it headline intelligence or headline. He's more focused on headlines than on the core. And so no, it's not contradictory at all. If dismantling the United States would guarantee him an inordinate amount of attention for the next 1,000 years, he would dismantle the United States tomorrow.